Good morning. Well, recently, just a couple of days back, the census of Canada released its report. And the report is such that it sent some shock waves through the spine of the rednecks and elevated the mood of some people, especially the new immigrants. The whole demographic of Canada seems to be changed. And the question that I had posed at Living Arts Center way back, about 10 years back, in the presence of Hazel McCallion, has been answered. I had asked, where do I go when I want to find real Canada? If I go to Mississauga, it's mini Pakistan. Go to Brampton, it's mini Punjab, and that too of the fundamentalist type. I go to Markham, it is again Muslim. Richmond Hill is Chinese. Where are real Canadians? Now these are the real Canadians themselves. They are not Punjabis, they are not Pakistanis, they are not Chinese. They are Canadian. The diversity which the Canadians have been so priding themselves for has become a thing which possibly nobody can object, because diversity does add to the value. But the whole structure of the country's demographic has changed. Are you aware that today in this country, 200 different ethnic people of the different ethnic origins, and there are possibilities that many more may come. The visible minorities can be 1/3, 33% of the Canadians by 2036. And the growth is not only in the cities, but across the country. It is amazing how the diversity is changing, and the immigrants, for example, in the prairies in the last 15 years, have doubled. It was especially amazing that one place in Cree Nations has immigrants, and a Tamil doctor is there who is a program officer as well for a long time. Half of the metropolitan areas, major metropolitan areas, especially Toronto and Vancouver, are full of visible minorities. And their presence is felt even in Saskatoon, Regina, Winnipeg, and culturally. So people did not think culturally diverse are now culturally diverse. That's the difference. But still the walls are there. And now there's another trend. More immigrants are arriving from Africa than ever before. And they are much ahead from Europe for the first time. Earlier, Canada used to be a magnet for the Europeans. Then the Middle East, Asia, South Asia, China, Philippines, and now Africa is the main point from where the people are coming. But it's amazing that the real Canadians, the Aboriginals, when we compare their fate, their condition, to the condition of all the immigrants, whether they're white or brown or dark or yellow, it's horrible. The poverty rate in Aboriginal is 30%, while it is 17% across the board. Now, coming to the hard facts, today there are 7.6 million Canadians who are visible minority, and that is 22.3%, just over 1/5 of the total population. It's a 5-time increase from 1981. And at that time, the visible minority was just 4.7% of the population. So, today, with the population being so much, is the political representation that much? The success of one Jagmeet does not mean that the visible minorities are represented properly. Look at the number of MPs, MLAs, and MPPs, and you would find that it's not there. Look at the boards of the various organizations, and the visible minorities are there for a token representation. I was amazed, that there's a small community on the eastern coast of James Bay where the people of ethnic origin from Caribbean, South America, Africa, Sri Lanka are there, and the economic development officer is a Sri Lankan, and he has been there for about 10 years. If that is the situation, things are definitely going to be better. But look at the condition now. Condition of the real Canadians, the Aboriginals. While all the newcomers and the oldcomers have nice houses, they need 400 more homes to ease overcrowding. Government permits them to build only 6 houses in a year. That's it. So, there have been cases where more than 50 to 20 people are living in one home. They have no choice. So why can't be the situation changed? That those people who are the real inheritors of the land are also given their due. Now coming to Toronto, that's very interesting. That majority 51.5% people in Toronto, in the city of Toronto, are visible minority. More than 50%. Does the Toronto Corporation have more than 50% councillors? No. Is the mayor or a deputy mayor a visible minority? No. And the shocking thing is that with the change in demographics, that change is not reflected the way it should be, either in the Queen's Park, or in the City Hall, or in the boardrooms. And that is my problem. 22% of the Canadian population today is foreign born. And 41% of the Canadians lay claim to more than a single ancestor group. Overall, more than 22% at that time, and from the visible minorities, which is up from 2006. But the suburban cities, 6 of them, around Toronto, can you believe that if you go there, you will not find any different than you are moving in the countries from where they came? Ajax, Mississauga, Richmond Hill, Brampton, Markham. Now, sometimes, I'm amazed that the people identify Brampton as a home of visible minorities. But no, it is Markham, which has 77.9% visible minority. Brampton is 73.3%. Richmond Hill, 60%. And in the GTA as a whole, would you believe, 48.8% of visible minorities. But then again, the unfortunate part is that they are not taken as the base for the growth, neither in the political power, nor in the economic power. Why? The situation is, now if I look at the community-wise, the largest visible minority in Canada is South Asian, 1.9 million people. Chinese, come second, 1.6 million people, followed by blacks, 1.2 million people. Then, in the city of Toronto, South Asians are again maximum 11.9%, Chinese 11.5%, blacks 8.1%, Filipinos 5.6%. Now, why is it, my again question is, that neither the city halls, neither Queen Park, nor the boards show a fair representation? And why is it that the decision making is being done not by the population as a whole or by the representative? And what happens is that the white leaders throw a bone to the South Asians, make 4 of them ministers, and everybody goes gaga, as if everybody has become a minister. I don't care how many South Asians or the Chinese are in the cabinet. No. I don't care how many people are at the highest rank in the corporations. My more concern is how many people are there leaders at the grassroots. Now imagine Brampton with 73% visible minority has only 1% as a municipal councillor. Just 1%. Complete council except for one is white. What does that show? This shows 2 things. A, that the visible minorities are still competing among themselves. One of the persons who was at one time mayor of Brampton told me, she said, Dr. Lamba, how can anybody throw me out? On the basis of demographics, you put up 1 Sikh against me, and I'll put 6 Sikhs of the same name as competitors. And she continued for a long time as a mayor, till she was recently replaced. I'm not bothered that there are 4 South Asian ministers, but I'm bothered that the total number of MPs does not reflect the number of the people, the demographics. When I go to the boards, there are 289 corporations, government corporations. There's only one Indian who is heading one corporation. There's a Canada Post, Deepak Chopra. No other corporation has an Indian head. There was one deputy CEO or COO of a bank, Sabi Marwa now. After that and before that, there has been nobody in the boards. Why? Not that they are not capable, they are. And they have a token representation, as I say. All that which come, visible minorities and diversities will be given preference. So they pick up one person. Census report as it is not reflected in the legislatures, is not reflected in the city halls, and not reflected in the boards. Something is wrong somewhere. Either there is a subtle discrimination, or the visible minorities don't have the capability. I do not believe in the second part. So there must be truth and veracity in the first part of the statement. And therefore there's a need for these communities to join together. No, don't think that I'm saying that you should be on parochial lines. Elect your community leader. Do not give your vote on the basis of the community as a religion. But Why is it that they are not coming in large number? What is inhibiting them? These things have to be considered in the wider perception, in the wider perspective. Canada is a member of the G8 and G20 countries, has a major role to play. And why should that major role not be reflected with the participation of the visible minorities? One aspect we cannot forget, that if this trend continues, census says that by 2036, the visible minorities would be more than 1/3 total overall, though in these places they have already more than 50%, and some places more than 70%. But in case the present trend continues, there is every likelihood that the visible minorities will be more than 40% by 2030. There is a need for the people of all communities to ensure the elections reflect their aspirations and their cultures, not the communities. You see, if you want to make a country multicultural, there has to be a uniting thread. And the uniting thread is the Canadian values. So let the Canadian values be upheld, but let me see more visible faces on the boards, on the Bay Street, in the corridors of power. And then would the country really be a multicultural country. Thank you.